Stephen, him from New York. And Stephen says that magic could be real. Stephen, you with us?
Okay.
Hey, first of all, Sydney, congratulations on your honeymoon. And hey, Scott.
Hey, Stephen.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Hi,
so,
Stephen.
yeah, so I think magic could be real, and I also want to define what I mean by magic as well, because the last two times I called, I didn't really define what I meant.
I appreciate that.
First of all, I believe in magic because when someone tries to use naturalism as an explanation to explain how living organisms form and the functions of the human body, they're sort of beating around the bush. They can't really give an answer as to how those things happen. So, and I think that points to magic.
Say that one more time. Give me that one more time. What points to magic?
The fact that a lot of things can't be explained with naturalism, with natural explanations. Like, for example, how the body heals itself from infections, for example, how...
Wait, can I stop you there for 1 second? Can I ask you a question for 1 second? I think that actually the body healing itself can be explained. I think like medicine's existence in general, doctors, hospitals, medicine, the entire history of medical research is actually evidence of how the human body does things like heal itself. Do you have a different example of something that only magic could explain? Because I think medicine in general as a whole in its existence covers.
We have a pretty good grasp on how the body heals itself. We know a lot about the chemical and biological mechanisms that go into that. And so, so I agree. That's not really the best example, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a few examples.
Okay.
One example is because humans and other living organisms, and wildlife is hyper instinctual. Like there's things that they don't have to know. Like, for example, people don't have to know about dehydration to crave water. They just feel thirsty and drink it, and it's I don't know how those things come about through nature.
Well, that's the thing, though. That right there, what you just said, that you don't know how those things come about through nature, that's not the evidence of magic. That just means there's research for you to do because those answers are out there. There are answers as to what exactly makes the human body feel thirsty when it needs water. There are answers to why you feel hungry when you need to eat. You not knowing those answers does not prove the existence of magic. That just means that you can Google it. You can find out why these things happen the way they happen. The answers exist. Again, medicine, science, I feel like that's kind of vague, but there are so many biology classes you can take that actually do tell you in great detail why those occurrences happen. So I think once again, that's not a great example of the existence of magic.
And I would add to that, Stephen, that, I think, for example, you were talking about people feel thirsty when they need to drink. I mean, do you think that people who don't feel thirsty, do you think that they would drink less? Probably. I mean, if somebody doesn't have that sense of thirst, they're probably not going to be drinking enough and then would die off. Probably would die off before they get a chance to reproduce. And that's how evolution works, is the members of a population that survive long enough to reproduce, they're the ones who contribute to the gene pool for the next generation. And so we can have all this variation for each generation, and we're going to have some people that have this response when they don't have enough water in them. They have this thirst feeling. They have some kind of urge to have something to drink. And then maybe we have some other people that didn't have that urge. And so they might be less likely to be able to survive long enough to get to reproduction and then the other group. And so then they would be less represented in future generations. And then if you do that over time, that's how those instincts build up. Is there was variation. Some of those variations gave us slight advantages, and then those slight advantages just build up over time. You don't think that makes any sense at all?
What doesn't make sense is that these mutations kind of occur once in a blue moon out of nowhere for no reason.
But they don't happen out of nowhere for no reason. I truly, I'm not messing with you. So these are the exact same kind of questions that I don't mean this to sound sarcastic at all. I'm being dead serious. These are the exact same kind of questions that if you Google these exact questions, the actual scientific answer will come to you. If you Google, why do we feel thirsty when our body needs water? Why do certain things happen chemically, biologically, whether it's in nature, whether it's in animals, whether it's in mammals, these answers are readily available at your fingertips. All you have to do is research it. All you have to do is look these questions up. We have so many resources now available that we can find these answers for you. I don't know right off the top of my head. I'm not going to pretend to be a scientist, but I highly encourage you to look these things up because you'll find the answer and it'll answer a lot of questions for you. Do you mind if I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think I've talked to you 3 or 4 times now at this point. And it seems like twice. Is it twice? Okay. Is this the 3rd time? I think this is the 3rd time we've talked, right? Why is it so important to you to prove that magic is the reason for things? Why is it not a satisfiable answer from science to explain all of these things, all of these happenings? And why are you so insistent on magic being the answer? Why does it make such a big difference to you?
Last time I remember Kelly said that I maybe want to believe it because I think it would be like glorious for magic to exist in the world, but things are not explained. And also I like knowing.
But they are explained. I promise you they are. So, and I believe you. I believe that you like knowing how reality works, which is why I highly encourage you to look up these questions, whether it's on Google, whether it's in textbooks, whether it's finding a bunch of different resources across the internet and kind of deciding for yourself which one makes the most sense to you. These answers are out there and they've been proven time and time again, and you can find endless examples of how reality works, how the real world works, how nature works, and none of it is explained by magic. That being said, if you were to find that nothing is ever explained by magic, would you believe it? Or would you discount it? Would you reject that information if we were able to provide proof for you that these things are proven and real and exist?
I may stop believing it, but I don't think it can be disproven.
But would you be willing to accept if it was?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, Rob Boss, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think something really important that should happen today for you is I think you should take all of the questions you just asked us and you should Google them, and you should especially pay attention to websites that end with .org. Those are organizations, usually true information, usually funded by research and science.
Or EDU.
Yeah, or EDU. That's usually like highly educated institutions. I think you should Google these exact same questions and discover what scientists and academics do say and have proof of, and like the answers that they have and the conclusions they've come to, and then maybe call back with what you found, and we can talk about that on another episode on why it's perfectly okay that magic isn't the fallback answer for these things.
Well, I also wanted to define magic because each time I called, I never really explained like how it works, really.
How what works?
How spirituality works.
Are you equating? So why don't you give us a quick definition on what you mean by magic or spiritualities? Because it seemed like just at the end there, it seemed like you were using them interchangeably. Yeah,
I think they mean pretty much the same thing. Yeah, I would say, first of all, I would say it's semi-conscious. It's not very aware. What the consciousness it has, basically what it does is it makes your body want to preserve itself and heal itself. It makes it kind of know how to heal itself, and it also makes cells come together in an organized way.
But why is it?
And the reason why I can't.
Why is it that you're so quick to believe this about magic, but when the answers actually exist and are there accessible for us that are the opposite of magic, it's actually science, it's biology, it's chemistry, it's actual reasons we know to be true and actual patterns we know to be true, why is that not believable to you, but these ideas that you have no proof of are believable to you?
I mean, I haven't really seen proof that the world is definitely natural.
That's not what she asked.
Yeah, I think you want to believe that magic is the root of everything. And I'm wondering if there is any answer you could possibly get, whether it's from us or from science or from, educational institutions or from research, that would satisfy you. And instead you're just set on the idea that magic is the reason for everything and the answer to everything.
Yeah, something could change my mind if I see evidence that.
But you've never seen evidence of
that,
magic. Yeah. But you've never seen evidence of magic either, though.
But
right?
you could. But you could come to that conclusion when you observe the world.
Sure, you can come to that conclusion at any time. The question is, can you reasonably or rationally come to that conclusion? I want to go back to you. So you're saying that people have these instincts, these desires, these drives, and you're saying that that's evidence of magic. Now we've talked a little bit about some possible naturalistic explanations for those kind of behaviors and those kind of characteristics. But even if we couldn't, even if we had no idea why we're thirsty, okay, even if we had no idea why we could have, or how we could have come about that, I'm curious as to how can you jump to magic from that? I mean, even if we don't have any evidence, even if we know nothing, how can you jump to the conclusion that it's magic? Are you saying that it's just because we don't have any evidence that it's not magic, then it's okay to conclude that it's magic? Is that your approach?
Well, there has to be a driving force for these functions and for these.
And that's biology, that's chemistry, that's physics, all of which have been proven, all of which have been explained, broken down, studied, proven time and time again. And the evidence is out there and it's available for free. You just have to be willing to accept that that's the answer as opposed to magic.
But even if we didn't have any of that, so your argument here is failing on two fronts. Your premises are off, and your reasoning, I think, is fallacious. Not only are there naturalistic explanations for the things that you're presenting as evidence of magic, not only do we have reasonable naturalistic explanations, but you also still haven't made any connection. You've just said, well, it must be magic. That's not an argument. And let's assume that we don't have a naturalistic explanation. Notice I say don't instead of can't. Don't describes our current state of knowledge. Can't is a little bit more, enveloping or universal rather. Okay. So if we don't have a naturalistic explanation, how is that evidence of magic? You say, and before you say, well, we don't have any other explanation, you understand that that's a fallacy, right?
Right.
That's the argument from personal incredulity or ignorance, right? I don't get it. I don't understand how it could be otherwise. So it must be this. That's a fallacy, right?
Well, I mean, really, I've really never seen anything address these topics.
Because they've already been proven.
Yeah. So what you're saying, if you haven't seen anything address these topics, then what you're saying is you don't have any evidence that it's magic. Is that right? Would it be correct to say that?
I think there is evidence. It's not 100% proven, but there is.
Well, then you should lead with that. What's the evidence? That should have been what you mentioned first, rather than talking about people's instincts. If you have evidence that that magic is real, boy, that should be number one straight out of the gate.
Also, I think something that might be really important to kind of highlight in this discussion, and I think should be highlighted more often in these discussions, is the idea that the absence of the other side having evidence to support what they're saying is not the same as evidence to support what you're saying. Me not having evidence to prove my side correct is not the same thing as therefore there is evidence for you. Me not being able to list off, biological and chemistry related reasons off the top of my head is not the same thing as therefore magic is true and there's evidence to support magic. So this is what I'm going to recommend. Stephen, I really appreciate you calling in each time. I think we've had a good discussion, and I feel like we've gotten a little further, especially with definitions and things. Because we have other calls waiting in the queue, I don't want to miss those, but I want you to take your questions that you asked us today, and I want you to research them with a totally open mind. I want you to look at the responses you find to these questions from scientists, from educational institutions, from valid sources, and just accept the idea that these things have been proven. We just have to ask the right questions. We just have to find the answers that we're looking for. And we have to willingly leave magic out of the equation and allow ourselves to accept what is true and what has been proven, and then call back and tell us your thoughts on that.
I am open to the idea.
Perfect.
I'm not like, yeah.
Okay, awesome. And I respect that and I appreciate that. And I can't wait to hear what you find, or maybe additional questions you have based on what you find. But until then, we're going to have to let you go because I do want to get our next caller up. But I appreciate you calling, and I can't wait to hear what you find out whenever you Google those questions and research those questions.